Okay, so we can start. The recording started. So now, yes, on the practical paper, let's quickly go through that one. So I'm just going to go through in general what some common mistakes was and what we just needed to look out for future reference, because it's also good to see what other people did wrong and then to learn from that. Alright, so the first question, I'm just going to work down according to the memo. The first question that wanted a random number between 1 and 10 went good. Nothing too serious there. The second one that wanted a real number between 5 and 25. Okay, so the only trick with this one, some of you still went in the brackets for the random. You used 25 as the highest. The problem with that is because you add random at the end. Remember that plus random at the end adds a fraction. So if you start at 25 and you add a fraction, it will actually make it 25.5 or 25.6. So then it goes over our parameters. So that would have cost you 1 mark. Just before I answer your question, maybe I'm answering it now already. One of you did add an if statement afterwards, saying if it goes over 25, just do it back to 25. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I did that, sir.
Yeah, so then I gave you your mark, yeah. So that was also right. Otherwise, yes, talk to me.
The other sir told us that for now we know how to do that if statement and you just say trunk. But sir said it's fine for now because if you put it 24, then you will never reach your highest then.
Yeah, but then again, if you read it nicely, between 5 and 25, is 25 between 25 actually? So if you, so technically you never actually want 25 even, either, in that case. But I will discuss with sir. Okay, so that was 1 mark for some of you. Yeah. Okay. So so that's 1. So, but I think for future, try to do that because I remember I was marking grade 12 scripts last year, and all previous years they had leeway of 1. They said if the learner generated a random number and it's off by 1, you can still give the mark. But then last year they said it's grade 10 knowledge, it's supposed to be right, so they actually had no leeway. So in their grade 12 exam, your random number needs to be 100% correct. If you are off by 1, they actually penalize the learners. So so I'll talk to sir, and then if that's what he said, I'll give you your marks. I'll give the extra 1 mark. Otherwise, yeah, so but then in any case, for future, just remember, try to get it more spot on. If you go between 5 and 25, then you never want to go over 25. I know it's just a fraction, but yeah. Then with the next one, they wanted, one of you just didn't read the question nicely, where it asked for a random whole even number between 50 and 100. So you needed to make it even with that one. So different ways you could have done it. Either you could have halved your random numbers and then just times by 2. That would have. So what I mean with that is, like with my memo, what I like doing, the random number should be between 50 and 100. So what I did, I generated a random number between 49 and 25, and then I times by 2. So that would automatically take it to the right range, and then it would make it an even number. But with most of you that did do this, you went the if route. If the number mod 2 is equal to 1, then you like added 1. So, and that's also 100% fine. So with that one, the only sort of loophole was some people didn't see the even or wasn't sure on how to do the even one. The 3-digit one, I think went good. Most of you got that right. With the calculate button, I think calculate went really well. Most of you could extract the number and then you did the if the first number is bigger than the second number, and you did your mod for the multiples, and you did your mod for the factors, and then the round and the square root and all that I think was good. This memo I will upload. I will also upload it to Google Classroom for you, so then you can just have a look and see what happened. I'll do that as soon as I've got the last two papers from Ruan and Jared. Then I'll upload that memo. And then for the last one, the card draw, I think the card draw went good. I wanted to look at the question paper. I just brought the memo when I was marking. I didn't have a question paper, but I think I didn't ask to display it nicely. So initially I did penalize you if you didn't have the image card.stretch is equal to true, but afterwards when I read the question that I think it was there, it wasn't there, so I gave that mark back to all of you. Yeah, and then so otherwise, as I said, majority of you did really well, and there was just some hits and misses. Any questions that any of you maybe might have had on the practical itself?
No, sir.
Not. All good, all good. Alright, I'm glad. Alright, then the theory. The theory was a bit more challenging. Just see where is my memo. Alright, got it. Okay. Multiple choice went good. No, there was something. Let me just see if I can get a question. I've again just got the memo here. Alright, let's just say multiple choice was good. Alright, the first question, so now theory. Give a clear definition of a computer. So, what you do want to mention when they ask you that is there's like three key things. The first one is to say it's a multi-purpose tool. So if somewhere in your paper you told me something that you can do lots of things with it, or it's got lots of functions, or anything that gave me the idea that you knew it's a multi-purpose tool, was 1 mark. Electronic tool. So anything telling me that it's sort of like a electricity computerized type of tool. And then the third one was that it receives input, does the processing, and gives output. So that's your three key things that gives you a definition of a computer. Sometimes, what did some of you say? Most of you got the idea sort of, but like if you tell me that it's something like a device that's got a keyboard and mouse, that's a little bit off, because we must remember a computer is not just our physical desktop PC. Even your smartphone is also classified as a computer, and a laptop is classified as a computer, and so all these things that basically is multi-purpose, it's electronic, and then it receives input, does processing, gives output. So there's all these things, like I said, even your phone is, and your phone doesn't come with a keyboard and a mouse. So referring to the specific components of a PC, a desktop PC, is not 100% spot on where we need it. Alright, then the 2.2, the computer is made up out of two main components. So the thing is, once you go that route, when they ask you a computer is made up out of two main components, that would refer to your hardware and software. And then hardware is the physical components, example mouse or keyboard, and software is the applications or coding or something like that on the inside, example Microsoft Word or Windows or any of those things. That would have given you 6 marks. Then difference between data and information, sort of something you have to just learn. just straightforward there. But data is your raw unprocessed facts. So data is just like numbers. But then once you take that data and you do some processing with it, then it becomes information. So information is processed data. An example of it would be, data would be like if you take an Excel spreadsheet and you just, or like in statistics with maths, and you just got a sequence of all the ages of people in class. That is data. But once you go and you do what is the average age, mode, median, sort of like all the statistical data you can extract from that data, that becomes information. Okay, so that was 1 mark, 1 mark. Then 2.4 asks you, your uncle is still hesitant if he needs a computer at the butchery. Convince your uncle on why he should use a PC. So most logical and first step that I was thinking of was like a point of sale, so that he can use it to when people want to buy, so that he can scan the prices, print receipts, do all of that. And obviously in that point of sale system, that will keep track of his stock and all those things. The other option would be to communicate with clients, emails, and suppliers. A third thing you could use is just like online banking. Fourth thing is to just advertise online, or fifth thing could be something like ordering his stock, anything like that, also online. So any two reasons would be 100% fine about why you would need that. So you'll see there's specific questions. When they ask you, when it's a 2 mark question, then you must remember you need 2 facts. IT always works like that. It is 1 mark, 1 fact. So if it's a double-sided question where they ask you, do you trust something, and give a reason, so then it will be 1 mark for the first part and 1 mark for the next. But then you'll see if it's like 3 marks, then you know your second part you need to abbreviate a bit further to get all 3 marks. Then 2.5. Obviously, guys, if you've got any like questions, just stop me and just say, "Ish, sir, but what about this or what?" And then we can abbreviate a bit on this. I do actually see especially when we revise these tests, it's a very important step to just see what we should have done. Alright, then if he buys a computer, you will also need a printer for the invoices. There's 2 types of printers. Briefly explain the difference between an inkjet and a laser printer, and then which one you think would best suit your uncle's butchery and why. Alright, so for 4 marks. So firstly, if you told me something like an inkjet printer uses liquid ink to be sprayed onto the paper, 1 mark. One common mistake, a laser printer doesn't use lasers. So a lot of you wanted to use the laser. So a laser printer actually uses rollers, and what it does, so the big difference between the two that you can, like a general person can see, is your inkjet printer uses liquid ink, while a laser printer uses toner, which is like a powdered ink. And then what it does, there's actually rollers on the inside, and it will go through the one roller that magnetizes the page on certain sections. Then it will go past the toner, and then that toner would get stuck on those magnetized areas, and then it will go through or to another roller, which is a warm one. It's called a fuser, and that's why when the page comes out, you'll feel it's very hot. But the nice thing, sometimes in my class I've got one, and then sometimes you get a paper jam, and if you remove it, then it jammed just before it went to the fuser. So if you look at the page, it looks like it was printed perfectly. But if you take your finger over, or even if you just blow, all the ink just blows away. So, and that's because it got jammed just before it went through the fuser. So that powdered ink never got like melted onto the page. Alright, so that's sort of the difference. So 1 mark, 1 mark. And then you had to suggest one. So then if you told me you suggest he must use a laser printer, and then for your reason If you said because it prints faster, then I would have given you 2 marks. 1 for laser, 1 for faster. If you said laser because it's cheaper per page, I would have given you the 2 marks. 1 for laser, 1 for cheaper. If you said inkjet printer, and then your reason would be initially cost less, then I'll also give you the 2 marks. So it could go either route, but you don't get the mark for the printer except if your reason for that printer is correct. Once your reason is right, you get both marks. And then 2.6, they ask name another output device except a printer. So there you could go anything like a speaker or screen or earphones or a projector or anything else for 1 mark. 2.7, they ask for name 2 input devices that you will need except for a keyboard. So mouse is good, barcode scanner is nice, that's your 2 common ones. Some of you said microphone, and I thought that's also applicable because you could actually then talk and give announcements inside the butchery. So yeah, any other 2 input devices that could be applicable would be fine. Which socket does the CPU fit on? The ZIF socket, most of you got that one. Then what does RAM stand for, and what is the function of RAM? This one was a little bit dodgy. So RAM is random access memory, that's what it stands for. And then RAM is the temporary storage for all the applications that's currently running. So you'll see if you're like your computer's on now with you've got Discord open. So Discord and Windows and all those apps currently running is being stored in our RAM, so that we can quickly access it and work quicker with it because our storage is so slow. So RAM is there to assist us with that. And then the last one, 2.10, what does QWERTY refer to? So it refers to the layout of your key set, and also most of you got that because it's the first 6 characters on the keyboard. Anything in that manner I accept it. Then question 3, when software. So they ask briefly explain each one, the 2 sections of software. So that is system software and application software, 1 mark, 1 mark. And then system software, if you set like Windows 10, it's 1 mark. And for application software, something like Word or Excel, another mark. That gives you 4 marks, 1 for each of the types and 1 for the examples. By 3.2, your uncle also needs to get an operating system for the computer. Explain why he needs one by referring to the functions of it. So the functions of the operating system, I think there's 6 in your textbook. So anything from process management to memory management to disk management to input and output management to supplies a GUI, manages applications. Yeah, that's your 6. So most of you, I see, didn't see this particular points, but then you did say, so if you told me something like without the operating system you cannot run other applications, then that's your application management, then I gave that mark. So if you sort of explain to me what is the function of it, then I would give it. The only problem with this is some of you said you need an operating system to boot up the computer, and that's actually incorrect. The BIOS is our, I want to say, software that we use to boot the computer. So the BIOS, they call BIOS firmware because it's software that's stored on a ROM chip on the motherboard itself actually. So as soon as you put the computer on, that initial steps is actually the BIOS that runs, checks the hardware, it locates the operating system, and the BIOS actually activates the operating system. And once the operating system is loaded, then the operating system takes over and does all the rest. So it doesn't boot it. And with this, try not to say without the operating system you can't do anything or something to that matter. Rather go to these routes that you need an operating system to manage other programs, and you need an operating system to manage your CPU and the RAM and your input and output devices and those things. Then by 3.3, tabulate two differences between proprietary and open source software. So proprietary software is the paid for one. So it's the software that, like if you go to Incredible Connection or if you go online and you pay X amount and then you get the software. That is proprietary software. So that's the first difference. Proprietary software is paid for, while open source is free. And the second main difference is proprietary software is copyrighted. So the copyright part means you're not allowed to look at the source code, and you're not allowed to change the source code or anything like that. While with open source it's not copyrighted. So you are allowed to look at the source code and you are allowed to copy it and change it and give it to friends and do whatever you want to with it. But proprietary software, like Windows, you pay for it and then you basically pay for a license to use the software. You don't actually get the software, it's not your software. You only paying for a license to use that software. So you're not allowed to look at the code, you're not allowed to change the code, you're not allowed to give it to somebody else. It's just the license just for yourself. Then 3.4, your uncle bought a printer, he receives a CD with printer drivers. Explain to your uncle what a driver is. So driver is the software that allows the computer to communicate with the printer. So the driver does not, in essence, it doesn't manage the printer, it doesn't check how fast it prints, it doesn't feed the paper or anything like that. It's literally the software that allows your computer to communicate with the printer. So it's sort of like the translator, if you want to say it something like that. So it translates so that your computer can understand what the printer is saying and vice versa. And then 3.5, explain what a software bug is. Also, a lot of you thought a bug is a virus. So a bug is not a virus. A bug is just an error in the code. So the people that created the program just messed up somewhere, or they didn't anticipate for a certain set of hardware or something like that, so that when you play or use a software, something goes wrong and it's not working as it's supposed to, and that is our bugs. So it's not a virus, and most of the time a bug is not put there deliberately. It's just the programmers did not anticipate you doing a certain sequence of steps which created an error in the program itself. And that was for 1 mark. Then 4.1, EULA. EULA is an end user license agreement. So it's basically a contract between you and the company, and it basically states that copyright that we just spoke about there about proprietary software. So it's just when you accept it. With this one, I think the question said, what does the acronym EULA stand for, and why should he not just click accept? So with a question like this, what you should not do, I think some of you said, don't click accept. Now obviously you don't want to do that, because imagine yourself, you're going to Incredible Connection, you buy software, you pay 500 Rand for whatever, you go home, you see the EULA, and then you say decline. Then it will just not install the software. So then you literally wasted your money. So you will most probably click accept, but by reading through it, it basically just tells you, listen, you're not allowed to copy to other people, don't try to hack into it and look at the code, don't try to steal some of the GUI or the ideas they've got there. So it's sort of just there telling you the copyright contract between you and them, because you bought the license to use the software. But obviously you have to use it within their boundaries of what they tell you you're allowed to do with the software. And that's what the EULA basically says. And then 4.2, Briefly explain to your uncle what piracy is and the effects on artists and creators. Most of you got this right. Piracy is the illegal copying or distribution of intellectual property for one mark, and then the creators does not get the money they deserve for the second mark. And then 4.3, your aunt typist, she normally gets quite a lot of back pain and wrist pain at work. Explain to her why this happens. So, yeah, most of you said it's because they sit in wrong positions and whatever, and that's all correct. One word that I would try for you to put in here when you get a question like this is mention the RSI, repetitive strain injury, which just says exactly that. If you put your body in an uncomfortable position or an unnatural position for a repeated time, then an injury could occur. So it's the repetitive strain injury. Repeatedly putting your body in a strained position, it could cause an injury, a repetitive strain injury. That's basically what happened there. And then 4.4, give one factor that can contribute to the digital divide. So most of you went poverty and stuff, and I think that's the most common one, that it's just because of money that there's actually that big divide. But it could also be because of location, because you don't have internet or you don't have a good signal or something. That could just be a problem. And then it could also be education, in the fact that some people might not know how to use the software, so it doesn't help you give them a program or a laptop or a tablet and then the person can't use it, doesn't understand how to do things with it, then it will still also just not help. Yeah, and that was the test out of 50. So yeah, any questions any of you've got in the meantime on theory or practical? Doesn't matter.
No, sir.
Not really, sir, no.
Alright. Did you write your practical and your theory on one day?
No, sir.
Or was it separate days?
Yeah,
Yes,
separate
sir.
days, sir.
Oh, okay. And the theory, did you write it alone on a day? I don't know, it just felt to me, do you think we should spend a bit more time on theory? Must I tell Mr. Walkinshaw? Because the theory marks is just, I want to say, so, you know mode in maths, mode is like the most common mark. So the mode for your practical is like a 48 out of 50. So it's a really good mark. Majority of you got high up there. Obviously there's some dodgy ones. But then the mode for the theory looks around about 35, 32, around about 32, 30. So the average is about a 60% for theory, while our average for practical is in the 90s. So why do you think, why would that be?
Yeah, I didn't study that much, sir.
Is it? Yeah, I must say generally in IT that tends to happen. Especially, well, normally, I don't know, I'm not sexist, but generally boys are a bit lazy to study for the theory, and then the practical is just easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also one thing that I do like IT, because especially like later you're gonna get a PAT. I'll maybe talk to you about the PAT a bit later on, and your PAT counts as a third of your final exam, and then your practical exam is another third. So your theory paper is actually only 1/3, and your practical part is 2/3. So practical is much more important than the theory. But yeah. JP,
I think the theory is just much more fun to like learn. Well, you don't really learn for it, but I think it's just more fun to do.
yeah, it is true. Yeah, I've got some grade 12s also there by your school. I don't know if you know them, Stefan and Jock and Kosi. They also, especially Stefan and Jock, also their variable names and stuff. They always try to use the dodgiest stuff when we marking this. But yeah, okay. So, all right. So that was the 2 tests. As I said, if you want your particular marks, you can send me a private message after class, and then I'll send it to you. Except now for Ruan and Jared. Unfortunately, with yours, I will have to just wait first. But obviously, I can send you your theory marks. But also, these marks are not moderated yet. I'll wait for Mr. Walker. So he's coming back tomorrow, and then I'll quickly moderate and just see if he agrees with the way I marked. And yeah, so maybe just look at this term. For this term, you'll have another 2 tests. So it will be again a practical and a theory test. Our main aim for theory for this term is to add string handling. So yeah, sorry about the homework I gave you. I actually, Ruan told me that I went a bit high. I actually thought you already did a string program. I did not know you didn't do a string one yet. So that's why I think most of you would have struggled a bit with the homework. So what I'll actually do, I think I won't mark the homework now. I'll actually go to the string program and just show you exactly how all the strings fit together, and then you can maybe try this homework for next week, this week's homework for next week. And yeah, alright, yeah, so maybe, yeah, also just in the meantime, if you want to start thinking, your pet for this year will be, I'm going to ask you to create a game. So you must think a little bit creatively. How the pet works, I basically tell you the topic now, and I'll give you the rubric hopefully in a week or 2. I must just still make it, but then I'll send you the rubric. So I'm going to give you the rubric that I'm going to use to mark. And a pet you can use, you can ask anybody for help. You can ask myself, Mr. Walker Shaw, your friends, grade 12s, Google, whoever you want to create the best program you can, and then you'll submit it most probably in the 2nd week of next term. So you'll have the whole of this term and the holiday, and then like the 1st week or so of next term to work on this program and to get it as good as possible. And you'll have the rubric. So I actually tell my learners, for a pet, especially for majority of you guys, there's actually no reason not to get 100% for a pet, because I mean you've got all the resources available to you. Yes, Keegan.
Sure, I've been waiting for a project like this for a while.
I've actually started on one a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I've been trying, but it's not that successful.
Yeah, so you'll see Delphi is not very game friendly in that it doesn't like any animation type of thing. So your
Yeah.
easiest route, easiest one, but remember, the easier you go, if you follow the rubric, sometimes it is better to take a very simple one and just get 100% for it, than to try to do something challenging and then lose some marks. But I know everybody likes a challenge. So easy ones would be a dice game or a card game, but then some game that is relatively, it's like high order but doable, is like a snakes and ladders game. Some people tried it. It sounds as if it's very easy, but it's not. I guarantee you. So that is also something nice to look at. But then obviously it's open to any type of game. So if you know like any other thing, then that's fine. So you can, like a snap game is not bad. The snap card game, which is not bad, and it's not too difficult to do, and but it is still a nice thing to do to get all the cards out there and so forth. So yeah. So yeah, you can start thinking about that. As I said, I will give you a rubric to just guide you exactly what you need to get total, and then yeah.
Thanks.
Alright. Okay, so let me start streaming. I'm just gonna change my program. Start this again. Yeah. So our first step, create a string variable. Extract out of our edit box name and surname. So take whatever's in there and put it into our string variable. Now we've got the person's name and surname in there. What's the next thing we want to do? So I want to display here his name and surname, but in uppercase or in capital letters. Any ideas?
So it'll be edt caps dot text is equal to
So edcaps.text. So we want to display in this edit box. What do we want to display?
uppercase
So we
in
want to
brackets
call the method uppercase, yeah, and then in brackets ns, yeah.
in the line.
Yeah, so just like we used in the maths, we used our seal and random. Now with strings, we've got one called uppercase. And then we can put our variable inside. So it will take the values that's there, make them capital letters, and then display it into that edit box. Alright, so this is actually processing plus out. Sorry, my Discord shortcut for mute is a plus. So every time I'm gonna put a plus, it's gonna mute. But yeah. Alright. So this is our processing part, and then we're also outputting the answer. Alright, so now you'll see if we play this program. It's a little bit small, but if we say Jan Pity, then you'll see everything there but all caps. Took that, made it capital letters. Alright, so the next one on this side, so this is by do2. We again want the name and the surname, but we want it in lowercase. So what do you think we need to do there?
The same, but instead of uppercase, you say lowercase. And a different edit box.
Yeah, so we need to do exactly the same stuff. So I'm just going to copy that. We need to create our variable again. We need to extract the name and the surname again. And then in our new edit box, we want to now, instead of uppercase, we can use lowercase. So lowercase, we'll take that ns, make it small letters, and put it in there. So now, so if you've got some capital letters, some small letters, and you click your button, there it will go all capital letters, and if you click this one, there it will go all small letters. Alright, any questions so far?
No, sir.
Alright.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Then we carry on. Alright, now with this one, if we want the first letter of the name, now there's two ways to do this. You'll see there's two of them. We can either use square brackets, or you can use the copy function. So I'm going to show you both. If I ask for this in a test, you can use either one. It really doesn't matter which one. It's like in the maths one, when you used either trunk or floor. Trunk and floor basically does the same thing. So it doesn't matter which one you use. And the same applies here. So if you want to use a square brackets, you can. If you want to use a copy function, you can. The only thing with the square brackets extracts the character at a certain position. So with the square brackets, you can only extract one character. But with a copy function, you can get a piece of a string, which could be one character, or it could be a whole name, or it could be like the whole surname. So copy gives you a piece of a string, so it could be multiple characters. But with the square brackets, you only get one character at all stages. Alright, so I'm going to use this same program, or same button. So we've already got the name and surname extracted. So now this one I called edt first brack, because we want to use brackets. So if I want the first character. So in this EDT first bracket in the text, I want to now display the first character. Does anybody know how the brackets work?
No, sir.
Alright, so how that works, you just say your string variable and then you add your square brackets. If you put a 1 there, that would extract the first character from the person's name. If you put a 5 there, it will extract the fifth character from his name. So if the person's name was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I put a 3 there, what do you think I would extract?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the C. So it would extract the third character from there. Right, but in this specific question, I want the first, so I'll just put the 1 there. That would now extract the first character. Alright, then let's go to the right hand side. The copy function is very important, and even the square brackets one, because you're going to use it actually quite a lot. So our copy function, no, I clicked the wrong one. Did I give this thing a name? No. Edit first copy. Alright, so now with this one, in my edit box, first copy dot text, I want to put. Now how this works, maybe I'm going to put some comments here. So how the copy works, it is out of which variable, then from which position, then how many characters. Especially this second part is very important, because you tend to forget this, and you'll understand why just a little bit later. But yes, so that's how the copy works. So you say copy, then you say out of which variable, then from which position you want to start copying, and then how many characters you want to copy. So I want to use a copy function. Out of which variable do I want to copy?
NS.
NS. Where do I want to start?
What was the question again, sir? First letter.
The first letter, yes.
So it will be 1.
Start at, and how many characters?
1.
And that's how the copy works. So that would then first letter J. If I click this one, first letter J. So both works, both is fine. It depends which one you want, but it also depends on how many characters you want. As I said, this one is for multiple characters, and this one will only work for one character at all stages. Right there. Alright, our next one we want to do the number of characters in the name and surname. So this one we want to know how many characters are in that. Now important thing to know with this is a spacebar is also a character, and a semicolon is also a character. So doing this, it would count all of those things for you. Alright, the function we're going to use for that is length. Now if I give you, let's say I gave you this word, how many characters are there?
Seven.
7. So what data type is your answer?
A string, sir. Oh, no, integer.
An integer, yes. So with this one, let's just give this thing a name also. So when we do this one, edt length.text, if you want to know how many characters there are, you're going to use length Length is our function. Length of what? We want to see the length of ns. But now, this will give us an integer. So when we want to display an integer, what do we need?
str, int to str.
Yeah, our int to string. Right, so if we do our Jan and Piet, and we click this one, you'll see there's 8. Because this spacebar also counts as 1. So it's the 3 letters of the name, plus the space, plus the 4 letters of the surname, which will give us 8 characters. Alright, everybody still with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well done, well
Yes,
done.
sir.
Cool, cool, cool. Alright, now I'm going to do the next one first before I go to that one, because we need this one to help us with that one. So, if we want to find out where something is, so I want to know the position of the space. So let's say I want to know where is the space inside this name. Now, we're going to need it a bit later on. So for this one, I want to create a variable. So if I gave you, or if we use my example that I've been using the whole time, Jan and Piet, and I ask you the how manyth character is the space, what will you tell me?
4th,
The 4th one. So what data type is your answer?
integer.
Integer. So I'm going to create an integer variable. I'm going to call it space because I'm looking for the space bar, and it's an integer. So now to find out where the space is, we can use the pos function. I'm going to put comments for this one also. So how pos works is what you are looking for and then in which variable. Alright, so how this works, you're going to go pos. What are we looking for? A space. So please just take care with this one. I'm looking for a space bar, so I'm going to go quote and then put the space and then quote. For some reason, yeah, some of my learners don't realize I put a space there, and then they just put the 2 quotes like that, and then you're looking for nothing. So that's not going to work. So we want to look for the space bar inside name and surname. Alright, so that's pos. What you are looking for and then in which variable. So this will give us an integer. So when I want to display this now, what do I need?
Int to str
Yes.
and then space.
Yeah, well done. Alright, so I just put it into a variable because I'm going to use it a bit later on. But then I also displayed it there. Oh, I'm going to use it on the side. Oof. Alright, but in any case. Alright, our next one, I just want to know where the A is inside the person's name or surname. So we're going to use the pos function again. So who wants to try this one for us? So edta.text I want to display, and now I want to know where the A is inside the person's name and surname. So what will I do? Which function will I use? Let's start there. Which function do we use to look for a specific character in a string? The pos, right? So remember here, so I want to know the position of the A inside his name and surname. So I'm going to use pos, and then what's the first thing I'm going to do? Alright, so I'm looking for the A inside NS. But again, remember this is an integer, so you need to int to string your answer. Everybody good with this?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Jared, you good?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Keegan?
Yes, sir.
Keshan?
Yes, sir.
Miguel?
Yes, sir.
Ruan?
Yes, sir.
Quentin? Okay, I can see Quentin unmuted, but I think his mic might be broken. Okay, let's hope he's good. Alright, so that's what we're going to use for the pause thing. Now we want to go to this side. The next one we want to do is if we only want the name. So we're going to use the copy function. Remember, the copy gives us a part of a string. But now, if you look at like this, if I type in this, if they ask me for name and surname and I say and I type in that, what is this person's name?
Jan,
How do you know that?
because it stands first.
Yes, and where does his name stop and his surname start?
It stops before the space, and his surname starts after the space.
Alright, so you agree everything up until or everything before the space is the name, and everything after the space is his surname. Alright, so that's
Yes, sir.
yeah, so that's why we actually needed this down here. So what's the first thing we need to do here, do you think? If we only want his name, what's the first thing we need to do?
Locate the space.
Locate
Put it
the
into a
space.
variable.
Alright, so I've got space. How can I locate the space? With what?
Int. No. First, just position in brackets, quotation space, and then ns.
NS. Alright, so now we know where the space is. Good. So maybe Keegan, I see you wanted to say, maybe you can help us now. If I only want the name now, let me just give this thing a name. EDT name. If I want to display the name only, what will I do?
So you say edt no, sorry. Yeah, you say edt name for text is equal to copy and then brackets
Yeah.
and then ns.
So we want to copy out of NS. Yeah, that's correct.
Yes. And then comma and then space.
Alright, so remember with our copy function, out of which variable, which is NS, then from which position. So where do
Oh
we
yeah,
want to
sorry.
start?
I'm thinking of something else. There.
No problem.
One, you say comma then one,
So
and
we
then
want to
comma space.
So we want to
Start
start
from-
at the first character, and where do you want, or how many characters? Okay, you said space.
Yes.
This would look fine, but technically there's a small mistake there. What went wrong? Who can help us a bit? When I've got this as a name and surname, and I look for where the space is, what will my answer be here? What is the position of the space in this name?
It will be
It's an integer.
It's an integer, but what's the value for if it's Jan Poggenpoel?
4.
It will be the fourth one. So this one is going to copy 4 characters. So it's going to copy the name plus the space. So you actually want to say you want to stop just one before the space, so that you don't take that space with. So for the name, we want to copy out of the name and surname, start at the first character, and stop just before the space. All good?
Yes, sir.
Alright.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to skip this one quickly and then just go to this one first. So if we want the surname only, but with a copy function. Is there somebody else that wants to help us with this one? Maybe not JP and not Keegan. Anyone else? So we want the surname only, and we want to use the copy function. So I'll help you. We're going to use the copy function, and we only want the surname. So any ideas? Okay, open to anybody. JP, Keegan, you can also help us again. What do you think? What can we do here?
So it will be NS.
So we want to copy out of NS, yeah? Where do we
And
want to
then
start?
Space minus +1.
Plus one. We want to start
And
just after the
then-
space.
And then I'm not sure what you put at the end.
Alright, so now let me quickly help you with this. Alright, so our copy has got two options. You can also just do that. You can copy out of which variable and then from which position, and then if you don't have anything else, it will copy to the end. So you can actually just end it off there. The other option, if you really wanted to put something there, you could have just put the length.
Yeah, so that's what
Of
I
any-
did.
Oh, is it? Yeah, then that's also fine.
Yeah.
That will also just go to the end. So that's also fine. But if you don't put in anything, if you don't put the third value, it will go to the end automatically. So you're going to copy out of NS, start just after the space so that we ignore the space. So you're going to start at the 5th character, and then you want to copy to the end. So then you just do it like that. Alright. Okay, then I'm quickly going to do the last one, and then will open for questions that you must please ask me. So we want to again just get the surname, but now we're going to use the delete function. So what the delete function does, it works same as copy, but it just deletes from a variable. So let's quickly see what that does. So our delete, okay, so how the copy works, it will always be a variable :equals to copy, and this will be a variable :equals to copy. But with delete, it's literally just delete, and then it's exactly the same. Delete out of which variable, and then from which position, and then how many characters. So if you only want the surname, that means we have to delete the name. Do you agree? So I'm going to use the delete function. Out of which variable do I want to delete?
NS.
NS. Where do I want to start deleting?
From 1,
From the first character. And up until where do I want to delete?
space -1.
Okay, but
Oh no, or just space.
yes, because now we don't want the space, so we want to remove the space as well. And now once
So
that
we
is,
need to display.
and now when that is done, yes, we can just display. And now, because we deleted it in NS, we can just display NS now, because the name is gone now. So that's the only negative about this. Your original NS is now changed. The name is gone. So if you carry on, NS is not the whole thing anymore. The name is gone. And that's how delete works. Let's quickly see how this works. So if we say that, then we click this one, all caps, first letter, how many, position of space, position of the A, and all small letters, first letter, name only, surname only, surname only. Exactly same stuff. Maybe something that I can say with this position, the position is always the first occurrence. Always character. So it's always the first occurrence. So if you do pause space and then you do it again and you do it again, it will always just give you the first one. It's not like this is the first space, this is the second space, this is the third space. It won't work like that. It is always the first. So it will be 4 and then 4 and then 4. It's always the first space. If you want the second space, you're going to need to start thinking creatively. Like, look where the first space is, copy everything from there, and then look for the space in that new thing. You know, like, or like we deleted everything up until the space. And then you can, after this, if you now do again position of space, it's going to look for the next space in this, but the first one's already deleted. So that will then look for the next one. So if you want multiple spaces, you have to be a little bit creative into what happens where. Alright, any questions on strings?
Yes, sir. With the position, if you don't have, like, let's say an A in it, in the thing that you typed, will the program still run or will it stop?
No, it will still work. Actually, it's also case sensitive. You'll remember I looked for small letter A. So if you go all caps and you do this, you'll see it just gives you a 0. And also the space is
Yeah.
just, so a 0, if it's a 0, it means it didn't find that character.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, sir.
no problem. Otherwise, Jared, you good?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Keegan,
Yes, sir.
Keshan,
Yes, sir.
alright, that's good. Miguel,
Yes, sir.
alright. Quentin, jy kan maar net weer unmute as jy, if you agree. Alright, yeah, I can't hear you for some reason, I don't know. Okay, yeah, and Ruan?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Okay, people, so what I'll do, I'll see if I can upload this one either tonight or early tomorrow morning. I'll upload this one plus the blank one to Google Classroom for you. Then you've got some notes to work with. So I'll upload it with all these notes that I added. And once you've worked through this one, those of you that couldn't do the homework because you actually needed to do this one before you can do the homework. And then, yeah, you can go through that. See if you can attempt the homework for next week. And yeah, okay, people, that's it for tonight. Yeah,
sir.
all right.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy the weekend.
You too.
You too, sir.
All right. Hey, Mpo, you just in time to say goodbye.
Bye,